During the Passion Week, Jesus spent some quality time with his followers, especially at the supper to commemorate the Passover feast, that which we often call the Last Supper. Good morning, this is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Thursday. Jesus made the arrangements for a celebration of the Passover meal. As they gathered together in that upper room, they were celebrating an historic action where God's death angel passed over every Jewish house with blood that had been spread over the door. They had done this each year for as long as they could remember to thank God for his mercy on his people. But I'm sure they did not realize its new significance. You see, the blood was about to be applied, that of the spotless lamb, that would bring about God's mercy on his people. But this lamb was actually his only son, the one who was willing to shed his blood for them on Calvary. During this special time with a last meal, Jesus would institute the practice of feet washing to show their humility to one another in God's family, as certainly he washed their feet. He would also address the present dilemma, that elephant in the room. For Jesus said to his followers, "The Son of Man indeed goes just as it's written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born." And immediately Judas speaks up and asks, "Rabbi, is it I?" He surely knew what was going on behind the scenes to betray Jesus. Perhaps he was questioning whether Jesus actually knew what was going to happen. But do not be mistaken. If we're planning to betray Jesus in some way, in any area of our life or our ministry, he knows beforehand. And we know beforehand. Jesus certainly knows our hearts and our lives and even our thoughts. It must have been heartbreaking for him to see that even one of his own band of followers would be the one to betray him to the Jews and to the Roman soldiers. It was also at the supper, by the way, that Jesus instituted that memorial act of communion. He said, "Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you." Then he gave them the cup and said, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." Even as Jesus used these elements, he knew how horrific this pain and this suffering was going to be for their sins to be erased. Then Jesus went with them to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. He is not only disappointed when they won't watch and pray, but he's also disappointed when Peter won't take him seriously, when he warns him about how Satan is desiring to have him, that he may sift him as wheat. And certainly Peter is going to deny the Lord, but he says, "No, I won't. I won't do that." Then Jesus went with them into that Garden of Gethsemane to pray. He's not only disappointed that they won't pray, but that they have fallen asleep. And now Jesus is seemingly left alone to face this terrible act of ministry on his own. His directive to his closest disciples: watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. I really think that would be one of the greatest directives for us today, especially during this season of the year. This was almost his last dying request for their support, for their comfort in this garden. What would Jesus ask of us today as we face Good Friday, as we think about this week and what it commemorates whenever we receive his sacrifice that he gave on the cross? How do we react and how do we treat Jesus? And certainly, what does this week mean to the Christian who recognizes everything about our salvation hinges on what Jesus did at this time?